Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, all that sorts of good stuff, guys. And it is Thursday, which means we are joined by three special guests. We're going to start with two of you here. First of all, is Mr. or Miss Joey Bishop. I keep wanting to say Mr. Joey Bishop. And behind Joey, of course, he brought along Aaron Cummings. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm just here to make Joey look good. So
and Joey, oh my God, I love Joey so much.
I want to say this also because we talked about it before. Still to this day, and this shows what an impact he had. Still got the R.I.P. Kobe on all the buses around Los Angeles. I noticed that, and I know we've talked about that before. So
they're going to be up for years.
A very long time.
They're going to be up for years. And also joining us today in studio, she's back in here. It's Chris Carr, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay!
Chris, how you doing?
I'm great. It's so exciting to be back here and not have my dogs running around ruining your passion speeches about Star Wars. So that's nice.
Is someone installing carpet in the background?
We tried doing this remotely because, like, you guys have no idea at home. My studio is in a shambles right now because we're shooting a documentary. Equipment is kind of being listen, it's rough in here right now. So we tried doing it via Skype. Didn't work out as well, so we brought it all back in-house. And that's what we're going to do here today. So listen, guys, we do have a lot of things to talk about here today. We're going to talk about what's going on with James Bond. Is this going to be the last movie that actually has the character James Bond? The reviews are in now, not just a social media reaction, but the reviews are in for Harley Quinn, and they are stellar. We're going to talk about the chances each Best Picture nominee has at the Academy Awards. We're going to talk about all that and a few things more. But we're going to get started off with our main topics. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by simply going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out. It's totally free. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number one. And our first main topic today gets submitted in to us by Ryan Cleary, who writes, "Hey, John, hope you're well. I am doing well, thank you. Thoughts on the passing of one of Hollywood's most iconic actors, Kirk Douglas, at," you're not reading that number wrong, folks, "at 103. He was in one of my favorite movies, Spartacus. Thanks." And yeah, man, Spartacus is one of, you hear me talk about, whenever I talk about my all-time favorite movies, Spartacus is always one of them that comes up as well. But he was even more than that. From Champion, Ace in the Hole, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, on and on and on. The dude had one of the most iconic careers. I remember even as a kid, he did this movie that, I don't know, it's really not a good movie, but as a kid, I loved it. He, as an older man now, did a movie with Burt Lancaster called Tough Guys. I remember that was, as a little kid, that was like one of my first movies watching him, and there were these two old mobsters who get together to do crime again. I loved it at the time. In retrospect, it wasn't that great, but I just love this dude. I even remember loving him in this tiny, tiny role he did, because you guys will often hear me talk about this really underrated comedy, this underappreciated comedy by Sylvester Stallone called Oscar, that I totally, totally love. And he just has this very small but amazingly hilarious part in the movie that starts the movie off. But when we often talk about movies in terms of the greatest moments in movie history, I'll often talk about the big lightsaber duel between Luke and Vader in the Emperor's throne room, stuff like that. But without any doubt, one of it's minimum top three greatest moments in the history of cinema is at the end of Spartacus. As, they've been captured by the Roman legions, and Spartacus stands up because, the Roman commander's like, which one of you is Spartacus? They got hundreds of them because they know they're going to torture the dude. And Spartacus stands up to sacrifice himself, but as soon as he does, another one of the gladiators that follow him stands up and says, "I am Spartacus." And then another, "I am Spartacus." And then hundreds of them standing up, "I am Spartacus." It is simply one of the greatest moments in the history of cinema. And you know what, guys? It's difficult when you're talking about somebody who was 103. It's it's less of a sense of mourning, I think. I mean, you're cognizant of the loss, one of the greatest, most iconic figures in the history of Hollywood, and his son ain't doing too bad either. But he was 103. This man lived a life, got to see his son become one of the most iconic figures in the world of Hollywood as well. He's got to see his own status grow and grow and grow. And simply one of the most celebrated, fantastic careers in the history of Hollywood. Aaron, as somebody who yourself got to star in something called Spartacus, obviously standing on the shoulders of Kirk Douglas. Your thoughts on the passing of Kirk Douglas?
Well, I shared something on Instagram yesterday, and obviously there's no end to what we can talk about regarding his contributions to the world of filmmaking. But I also want to talk about, when you reach that level of celebrity, for lack of a better word, although I really detest that term. When you reach that level of visibility, people have a choice of what they're going to do with that visibility. And what I love about Kirk Douglas is that he continued to give back to the community in which he lived and thrived. I posted this photo. I don't know if you can see it.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's on my Instagram. It's a blurry photo from whoever took it, but it's from 2006 when he was 89 years old, and we were down at the Los Angeles Mission feeding the guests who come there for Thanksgiving who otherwise may not have a Thanksgiving meal. His wife, Anne, had contributed so much of her time and energy, and he had also contributed so much that she had a center named after her, the Ann Douglas Center for Women at the Los Angeles Mission. So if anybody wants to not only celebrate his memory by going back and rewatching some of your favorite films, but also by giving to something that was near and dear to his heart, consider going to lamission.org, and you can also do /Ann Douglas for Center for Women. When you were talking about that moment of I am Spartacus, no, I am Spartacus, it flashed in my mind really quickly how often we see that theme repeated over and over. And what I was thinking about was in the Robin Williams film, and I'm Oh Captain, My Captain, when all the students
Dead
get
Poet Society.
Yeah, Dead Poet Society. That's just one example, and I'm sure that the viewers and you guys probably have other things that are popping into your mind of those iconic moments of films that really stand the test of time. And I agree with you, John. It's not necessarily a mourning as much as it is a celebration. And may we all contribute even one fraction of what this person has given to society.
Chris, you heard about the passing of Kirk Douglas. When you think about the passing of and the career of Kirk Douglas, what comes to your mind the most?
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a celebrated and long career. 103 years? Come on, man. He saw so much of Hollywood. He got to see so many things change and grow, and that's so interesting to me. My Nana had a VHS of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and that's what I first saw him in, was just watching that over and over again. And of course, Spartacus and all of those things. He picked so many different roles. I mean, you brought up Tough Guys. He randomly was on Tales from the Crypt back in the 90s. I mean, this guy did everything. And I think when you see something like that as a performer or as just a person in any field, it encourages you to try new things and experiment and be brave. And he had this really, really great quote that was, in order to it's something like, you have to be brave enough to fail in order to succeed. I'm butchering the quote. It was on one of the walls of one of my classrooms growing up. And I just love that he applied that to his own career and his own life of just take chances, go out there, try new things. And I think that's something we all can learn from. And I think you're right, too. This seems more like a celebration because 103 years, that is a wonderful long life. He had so much love and support from his family and his fans. And he was always just such a joy to see.
And 65 years of marriage. He
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
they asked him, how have you stayed married for so long? And he said, I always told my wife, if you ever leave me, I'm going with you.
All right, guys. Question is, what are some of your favorite memories of Kirk Douglas? What are some of your favorite films of his as well? Jump on down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Alex Pitt, who wrote, Hi, John. I think me and you are both in agreement that 1917 will win the Oscar for Best Picture on Sunday, but I could also see a few other films coming in and winning it instead. Just for fun, I wondered what percentage you would give each nominee of actually winning the main award. Thanks. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yep, Academy Awards this Sunday. It is my second favorite day of the year, right behind Christmas. That's right. I even look forward to it more than my own birthday. It's Oscars. I love the Oscars. And to me, it's become apparent 1917, while Jojo Rabbit would have been my vote, 1917 is poised to win this award. It's their award to lose at this point, and I'm going to have no complaints about it because this movie is freaking brilliant. I absolutely love it. It is the clear frontrunner. However, that's the funny thing about frontrunners. Frontrunners can still lose. Frontrunners can still stumble at the finishing line and something else can pass it. We have seen many, many upsets in Oscar history and other awards things before when one thing looked to be a surefire lock and then something else sneaks up. I do think 1917 is a quarter mile ahead of everybody else right now, but everybody else still has a chance. Here's how I would break it down for this weekend, all right? This is how much lapside I think. I think 1917, I give a full 40% chance to win Best Picture. I give way behind it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once again, Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I give a 17% chance to win. The Irishman, still holding on to a 12%. There was a time a few months ago that it was considered maybe a front runner. I think it's fallen all the way back down. I give it a 12% chance. Parasite, brilliant freaking movie. Another movie that I would not mind at all if it snuck up and won, but I give it a 10% chance. Joker at 7, Marriage Story at 7, Little Women 3, Jojo Rabbit, the one I would vote for, I give a 2% chance of winning, as well as Ford v Ferrari at a 2% chance. So here's the funny thing. It doesn't matter Marriage Story has a 7% chance. You take 100-sided dice and roll, you may come up 1 through 7. It can happen. There can be an upset, but that's just kind of how I see it breaking down right now. I will be shocked. If 1917 does not win, if something else is able to sneak up and pull it off at that point. So, Aaron, let's go over to you first. You don't seem to agree with my chances there. What do you think the chances are of each particular film coming in there?
Well, there's two things happening. Number one, I don't understand how you put Irishman that high. And number two, Joey just farted.
10% chance. I give it a 10% chance.
Sorry, Joey just farted. So
okay, that's
like, boo, we need to go poop. Yeah. So, I will. I know I said last week that, it's anybody's game and I'll be happy if anybody wins and blah, blah, blah. They're all winners because they're nominated. No, if 1917 doesn't win, I might have to fully stomp my feet. And I don't think I'll flip a table, but I will definitely post a flipping table GIF. I understand. I was like, once upon a time, 70% when I saw that last night, but now I get it. You're right. People in Hollywood love movies in Hollywood and and I would only agree with you on the Irishman having that high of a percentage because there is sort of this all hail King Scorsese kind of thing that also goes on within the Academy. But I haven't really talked to anybody outside of our little Hollywood bubble who kind of gets it. And once I said, you know what, I couldn't sit through it. It was just like, I got bored twice. All of a sudden people were like, oh my God, I did too. I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I just didn't really like it. Maybe that's just my opinion. I would have put Jojo Rabbit way higher. And I know that you are not basing this on your own personal opinion, but
I think it should win. I just don't think it will.
Right. I would put it higher than that, but I would actually switch Jojo Rabbit because also let's not forget what Hollywood loves. In addition to movies about Hollywood, they also love stories of Jewish history. Schindler's List, I think that those stories really still resonate as they should, and I would switch Jojo Rabbit and Irishman. I think Irishman lost a lot of its luster once it came out and the rest of the viewing public started saying, yeah, I don't get it.
Here's the thing. I think this is why I put Jojo lower. Prior, I can only think, and I might even be wrong about the second one. I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so just fact check me on this, guys, because I could be very well wrong about this, but Taika Waititi did not get a Best Director nomination.
Right. Correct.
Argo did win Best Picture without Ben Affleck being nominated for Best Director.
Okay.
But I think the last time that happened might have been Driving Miss Daisy. No, Driving Miss Daisy didn't win Best Picture, did it? No, but it had been a long time. It had been a long time. It is so statistically small that a picture wins Best Picture when the director hadn't been nominated for Best Director. That's why, like, to me, it's like, to me, Jojo Rabbit's the best movie of the year, personally, but it doesn't have a lot of buzz. Couple that with the fact that the Academy didn't give him a Best Director nomination, I see his chances drop pretty hard.
So let me ask you this, because I know that only directors nominated in the directing category, just like only cinematographers in this,
or the
blah,
director's
blah, blah.
branch,
Right, of the director's branch of the Academy.
Yeah.
If you're a member of the Academy and you happen to be a director, you can vote in the directing. You can nominate in the directing category, and you can vote in that category, but you can't nominate or vote in, say, the acting or the sound.
No,
editing.
so here's how it works. So
break it down for me, because
right.
sadly, I'm still not in the
Academy.
Academy.
You got the different branches of the Academy, right? So you got the actors branch, directors branch, cinematographer, blah, blah, blah.
Sound,
now, what happens
costumes.
is each branch will put forward in the category that corresponds to their thing. Now, I'm just speaking in general terms here. There are some specifics I'm leaving out, but basically speaking, the director's branch, they will put together with their nomination committee, they will put together the list of nominees, of who the nominees will be. Once the nominations are done for each of the branches, the entire Academy votes on the nominees. So, like, let's say you and I are in the director's branch, and we nominate, Chris Carr as Best Director and 3 other people. Okay, we put together the nomination list. Now the whole Academy will vote on our nomination, including us, but everybody in the Academy votes on that. So the actors branch will put forward the acting nominees, and then the whole Academy will vote on those nominees, so on and so forth. So this is the part that confused me a lot, because you guys have heard me go on this a lot. Many of the members of the director's branch of the Academy are also members of the DGA, right?
Yeah.
The DGA, the year that Argo won Best Picture, guess who the DGA gave Best Director of the Year to?
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. And then he didn't get, still to this day, somebody's got to make a documentary at some point about how the DGA gives Best Director of the Year to Ben Affleck, and then many of those same DGA members and the Academy
voted for Ang Lee.
Don't nominate him. Don't even nominate him for Best Director. It's one of the, someday somebody's going to have to explain that to me.
But hold on, does the entire Academy also vote on the technical awards? Because,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But now we're getting off topic. Now we're getting
no,
way
it's
off
not
topic.
off topic.
With technical awards, talking about each of the individual.
Well, I'm just saying, like, what business does Scarlett Johansson, no offense to her, have voting on who gets the award for, like, creating the coolest new light fixture or something?
Well, like I said, I don't know how it applies to
But
technical
I guess
awards.
what my question is, so who nominates the Best Picture nominees?
The entire Academy.
The entire Academy creates.
Yes.
Oh, got it. So it's not the producers, because
No, I
the
believe it's the
producer
whole
accepts
Academy,
the award for it.
Now, I could be mistaken about that, but I believe I produced a video a number of years ago about the whole process, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, and I don't always remember correctly, but if I remember correctly, there is this balloting system that they go through to come up with a nominee list that is not any individual branch that comes up with it.
God, between this and the Iowa caucus, I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, I still think Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, yay! But 1917 better win. Or it's flipping tables time.
Chris, how would you break down the chances of all the different films?
Well, first of all, I have to be completely honest and say either today or tomorrow I have to go see 1917 because that's the one I'm missing.
See it in the theater,
see it in
please.
theaters. It's one you
I
gotta see in
don't. Yeah, I
theaters.
don't want to watch a screener of it. I want to go see it in a theater, and that's why I've been putting it off. And without seeing that movie, I know my opinion really doesn't matter, but I'm with you. I love Jojo Rabbit so much. I mean, Parasite is incredible, but Jojo Rabbit was a movie for me that just took me on a roller coaster. I laughed, I cried, I loved everything about it. I thought the performances were astounding. Taika Waititi is Hitler, you guys. Come on.
I know. Listen, that was. I just can't get over it. But here's the underlying truth, though. Here's the underlying truth. Mm-hmm. Regardless of if whoever wins, there's going to be a big group of people online bitching and complaining that it shouldn't have won. No matter who wins. If
Absolutely.
1917 wins, there's going to be a whole bunch of people
Yeah.
whining, complaining about how the Academy got it wrong. If Irishman wins, there's going to be a whole bunch of people complaining that the Academy got it wrong. If Jojo Rabbit wins, all bunch of people. That's just how it works, but that's how I see it breaking down. Question is, guys, how do you see the chances breaking down of each individual film and their chances? Again, listen, there could be a big upset. I just think the horse way in the lead right now is 1917. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Geeky Gator, who writes, "Hey, John and gang. Vin Diesel was recently talking about the future of the Fast and Furious franchise through spin-offs and seemed to suggest that Fast 10 could be split into 2 parts. What would be the point of that? Shouldn't they just call it Fast 10 and Fast 11? Thank you, Geeky Gator, because I am so over this idiotic thing of saying, oh, we're going to split the next one into 2. No, you're just doing 2 more. Yeah, but we're splitting it into 2. No, you're just doing 2 more. Unless you have a book that you're naming the movie after and you want to break that one book into 2 parts, then you're splitting it into 2. You're talking about doing Fast 10 and Fast 11. Here's the comment that Vin made that everybody's talking about. This comes from Vin Diesel, who I love, who wrote, I started planning for Fast 10 before we started filming Fast 9. Very much so. The universe is so robust and so rich with talent and rich with story that, on one level, it's totally feasible to have spin-offs, and I think that's something that is inevitable. Well, newsflash, Vin. You're already doing it. It was called Hobbs and Shaw. Made over $700 million. You should look into that. And I think that's something that's inevitable. Universal deserves it because of how much they've invested in this little saga, and it'd be good to give back to Universal. And for the fans, that's a great attitude for a producer to have. And for the fans, should Fast 10 parts 1 and 2 be the conclusion, it would be nice for this world to continue for generations to come. I know it is just semantics. I know it's just semantics, but it bugs the fuck out of me when I hear, and it's just a little semantic thing. It should not bother me, but when we hear people totally misuse it, you're not splitting the next one into 2. I know, here's the thing. This is what the reality here is. Vin Diesel said a while ago that he thinks he's going to end, this was like back around when 7 was coming out. He said that he thinks he was going to end Fast and Furious at 10. And it feels like, well, I don't want to just do 10. I want to do a couple more. But I said it'd be 10. Okay, so we'll say we're splitting 10 into 2 parts. 10A and 10B. I know it's just semantics. I know it shouldn't bother me, but it really does bother me, even though it's totally ridiculous for me to be agitated by it. But Vin, listen, you were planning it. You realize what you planned is really 2 movies. So just call it Fast 10 and Fast 11. Get off this whole stupid thing about freaking splitting it up. And by the way, there's no way. If Fast 10 comes out, let me rephrase. When Fast 11 comes out, and that movie makes $835 million at the box office, Vin ain't stopping at 11, whether he calls it 11 or 10B. He's not stopping. Remember, he tried to go away. Here's the thing. Vin Diesel tried to go away from the Fast and Furious franchise before. And it didn't work out as great as he had kind of hoped. So he came back to Fast and the Furious. When was that? Yes, remember, he left after the first one. So he wasn't in 2, and he
didn't leave.
Well,
no, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, you want more money and you want a producer credit. That was the thing. He said, hey, I was the star of this movie and it did really, really well. I want the rights to one of the video games. He wanted the rights to a project that he wanted to base a video game off of, and he wanted to buy it from them. And they were like, "No, we're not going to sell it to you." And he also wanted a producer credit, and they were like, "No, we're not going to give you a producer credit." So then they did the second one without him, and they were like, "Oh, this did not turn out how well we wanted."
Well, then they did a third without him.
He did not. That was not.
He could have been in it if he wanted to, but the problem was then he left. He did a bunch of things that didn't work out nearly as well. And
Daddy Daycare was a big hit.
And then
hit.
He came back. He did what Sylvester Stallone did, right? Stallone went away from Rocky and went away from Rambo for a bunch of years because he didn't want to just be known for that. But then he realized, man, people love me as Rocky and Rambo. Why not go back and do that and make lots of money, make millions of people happy? And so he went back to it and had a big resurgence. He went back to Fast and Furious, big resurgence. He's got Bloodshot coming out. And this is hard for me to say because I'm not being facetious when I say I'm a big Vin Diesel. I love Vin Diesel.
Oh, we know.
I love this dude. Bloodshot is not going to be a big hit.
But it's going to be cool.
I hope it's going to be really cool.
So excited.
But it's not going to be a big hit. And I think when he does 10B or 11 and it makes $800+ million, There is no way that, number one, Universal doesn't completely want him back to do more, but there is no way that he himself doesn't come back and do more. Maybe he takes 2 or 3 years off to try some other things, and when none of them come close to the level of love and glory and anticipation that his Fast and Furious franchise does, he's going to pull Sylvester Stallone again and come back to that, where that he loves doing it and everybody loves him in it. So I just don't see any reality where 11 is actually the last. I mean, unless 10 comes out and makes 500 million, and then 9 comes out and makes 500 million. It won't. It won't. But I'm just saying, or I should say, if it came out and made like 500 million, and then 10 came out and made like 490, okay, maybe then they don't plan for 12 and 13, but that's not going to happen. We're going to see more beyond this, and we're going to see spinoffs. They just did one with The Rock, made over $700 million without any of the other main characters of the Fast and Furious franchise, and they made over $700 million. This is just a franchise right now that is maybe not firing on all cylinders like it was around Fast 7, but it's certainly revving its engine, no pun intended, really strong. So I don't know. Anyway, Chris, you hear Vin Diesel saying, yeah, we're going to do Fast 10 Part 1 and 2. I don't know. What are the things that come to your mind?
I mean, is it too fast and too furious for one movie, Vin? Is that why? I think this is so dumb. Yeah, just make it 2 movies. I'm so glad you brought up Rocky, because the franchise feels like that Spaceballs Rocky joke at this point of Rocky 5000. They're just gonna keep making them, and that's fine. Just lean into it. I think the Part 1, Part 2 thing is kind of nonsense. Just treat it like other movies. They're sequels. They're continuations of your story. Have a big cliffhanger. Make us come to that next film. But it doesn't need to be Part 2. That's just dumb.
Like, again, if there was a novel out called Fast and the Furious 10,
Yes.
and they decided that's too much story in that novel to do one, we're going to break it into 2 parts, but they're
Like
both
with
based
Harry
on the
Potter or with
Hunger Games.
Hunger
Can someone
Games.
please
Yeah.
do a novelization of the Fast and Furious franchise? I want some romance novels. I want some like Harley Quinn covers
fan
of Vin
fiction.
being like holding a wrench and being like, let's do this. Get me a can of Nas. Like I want
Vin Diesel with long flowing locks, like holding a Michelle Rodriguez in a dress that's barely hanging on.
Oh my gosh, internet, make it so.
Aaron, what do you think about this?
Well, just to close up that loop, by the way, Universal did turn around and go, okay, Vin, we realize that we cannot live without you, and you totally know what you're talking about, and you 100% do deserve those producer credits. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to buy the rights to that property. We're just going to give them to you. And then he went off and did beautiful, successful things in the video game world. So good for you, Vin. Clearly, the man knows what he's talking about when it comes to business. And I love the idea of a Part 1 and Part 2. I know that I'm in the minority here, but here is why. Kill Bill 1 and 2. You know, it could have been Kill Bill, like they were made to be 2 parts of each other. And the difference between parts and sequels is that it's not just having a cliffhanger. It's that they are made to be seen together in a similar way as a television show would be. You know, you're not going to watch Game of Thrones without seeing the Red Wedding episode. It's integral. It is integral to the fabric of the story. So just like Fast and the Furious 10 parts A and B, it will be circular. You can have double feature screenings where you literally, I can go and see Fast 7, for example, and I don't have to watch all of the rest of the movies to understand what's going on. Now, granted, I understand that it's not necessarily like super deep stuff we're talking about here. You know, there's not a ton of subtext, but I can watch it as a standalone film. It is made to be. It is made to be. Oh, is she licking your feet again?
Licking my feet again.
What do you put on your
dog.
toes, John?
The dog is licking his feet.
Yes,
Anne,
not Chris.
get in here and
Not
lick
Chris.
John's toes because my dog is doing it. Anne, I'm just.
Oh, Joey.
I don't even know if you guys are.
Joey loves me. Anyway,
I mean,
sorry.
she doesn't lick my toes.
I'm just saying. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
She's boundaries
I
with
didn't
her
mean to
mom.
interrupt,
It is
but it's tickling me.
hashtag toe licking Thursday. Clearly,
Oh, I don't want to be on that one.
Sorry to interrupt.
Chris, but have you had it done? Because I'm just saying. Oh, sorry. Having some flashbacks here.
Sorry, we all lost our train of thought. Sorry. I don't want to I was trying to hold it in, but it was just tickling too much.
Anyway, I like the idea of these two films being woven together, not necessarily because they shot too much and they're like, oh crap, we need to make part 1 and 2, but that, I mean, he's saying that he's been thinking about this since they were doing 9. He's thinking about how these two things are interwoven to where they belong together and are meant to be screened together, are meant to be seen together, are meant to be back to back, so that there is not just a cliffhanger, type of anticipation, but they really are two parts of a whole versus just a continuation of a saga. And I like what he's setting us up for. Hey guys, I know that the Fast and the Furious franchise does not want to end and you guys want to keep seeing it, but Vin Diesel, am ready to pass the torch. We're not going to end it. We're going to keep with the spin-offs and blah, blah, blah. And I'll keep, getting my paychecks as a producer and I'll have my fingers in it. But I'm, as a creative being, ready to go do something else. And by the way, I know people online like to give me some flack for constantly trying to get a job, but I'm an actor. I'm a hustler. It's what we have to do. Hey, Vin, remember when we did the ropes together? I would love, remember when we talked about, hey, like me being involved in other projects? Those
here's
two
the big
fast projects
difference.
I would like to, I can drive cars.
The big difference between, though, this situation and, say, Kill Bill was that, like Hunger Games, like Harry Potter, Quentin Tarantino shot Kill Bill as one movie. It was meant to be a movie. Mm-hmm. And then he was later told to split it into 2. So that, I understand calling it part 1, part 2, splitting into 2, because like there being an existing book, there was an existing movie that was shot as one movie. It was intended to be one movie and then split up. So I don't know. Again, though, I fully admit the ridiculousness of me getting this wound up about something that is nothing but semantics. I fully admit it. It totally is. And I don't know why it bothers me so much. Question here is, guys, what do you think about this whole thing about maybe there being 2 more Fast and Furious, Fast 10 and Fast 11? And yes, I'm going to call it Fast 11 because that's what it would be. But anyway, what do you guys think about that? Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our 4th main topic today gets submitted to us by Jacob, who writes, I love the James Bond films, and I can't wait for No Time to Die. Man, the trailers have been great. Though I can't help but think this is the last time we'll see James Bond on screen. With the marketing claiming that everything will change. Yeah, but every single movie says everything will change. Anyway, and I've always said Barbara Broccoli, but apparently it is actually pronounced broccoli.
Yes!
Barbara Broccoli, recent comments, it's leading me to believe that Leshawna Lynch's Naomi will take up the mantle, the 007 mantle, going forward. What do you think? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Jacob. So for those of you who aren't up to speed on what's going on here, Leshawna Lynch apparently is going to be the new 007. She is not the new James Bond. Because remember, what's being set up in this movie is apparently James Bond has been retired from the service for a few years, so another agent took that number. There's 004, 009, there's 007. So she apparently took on that new designation as 007. She's not the new James Bond. She's just the agent that happens to take on that number since James Bond no longer uses it. Barbara Broccoli recently made a comment talking about, could we ever see a female James Bond? To which Barbara Broccoli said, no. She said, I could see him being white, black, Asian, all that kind of stuff, but James Bond inherently is a male character, and we're always going to have James Bond as a male character. That has led a number of people, like Jacob is mentioning here, to speculate that maybe what's going to happen moving forward is that, yeah, James Bond will be gone, and they're not going to call it James Bond anymore, but all these movies will be based around the new 007 being played by Leshawna Lynch, who's great, by the way. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Now, what I could see them doing, possibly maybe, is a spin-off situation. I could see Leshawna Lynch's, you may even want to call it, I can't remember the name of her character. Naomi? Nomi? Okay, so say 007, Nomi, and like having a spin-off. I could see that. I could totally see that, and maybe it'll be awesome. Don't know. I'll have to see this movie first to see if I like the character. But I could see them doing something like that. But James Bond is the brand. That's the brand of this franchise. So, and by the way, it is a great Hollywood tradition of who's the next Bond. That's as much of a Hollywood tradition as the Oscars are themselves. Who's the next Bond, right? So I really don't think that's going to be the situation at all. I totally think they're going to recast James Bond, probably start a new story, whatever, but I don't see them moving forward without a James Bond character. I think that one is pretty much locked in the bag. Aaron, anything can happen in Hollywood. Anything can happen in Hollywood. We know that. We've seen it 1,000 times. But what do you think the chances are that they actually retire the character James Bond and just move forward with these spy movies without him?
0. Like, that's first of all, I love the fact that they're moving forward and giving the 007 handle to another character. I think that Leshawna Lynch is going to be amazing. It's going to be really exciting to see what that brings to the franchise. But we're going to see whoever, and she's going to have several movies. And at some point, the new James Bond, maybe James Bond becomes a 004. He gets another 00 whatever. But it's not really about that. I mean, I know that we put so much, historically, it's always been 007, but let it go. We'll all let it go. We'll be fine. There will be someone who will come up and his name will be James Bond. I mean, there's already been lots of talks about it. Idris Elba's name has been bandied about. Jack Houston's name has been very seriously discussed for a long time. Who's that handsome Henry that I like so much?
Henry Cavill?
No, not that one.
But remember, speaking of Henry Cavill, remember when Daniel Craig was auditioning for the role of James Bond, it came down to him and one other guy who was Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill was the runner-up to get that role. So a lot of people, and after seeing Henry Cavill in Man from U.N.C.L.E., a lot of people are going, ooh, Tom Hiddleston's another guy that has been in the discussions about a James Bond character. There's a lot of really good. Who's Golding? You're thinking Henry Golding.
Henry Golding. Oh
Yeah.
my jeez Louise.
By the way, do you see this product? They put out the first picture of him shooting Snake Eyes. Did you
Is
see
he
that?
naked?
No, sorry. I apologize. He is not naked. No. But Henry Golding. Oh, by the way, you still haven't seen Gentlemen.
No, I haven't.
If you like Henry Golding, you got to see Gentlemen.
I know. I might
Sorry.
do a double feature of Gentlemen and Birds of Prey this weekend.
All right. Well, I pulled this off on a tangent, so I apologize.
So I definitely think that we're absolutely going to see James Bond again. I think we need a little after No Time to Die. And here's the thing: it's great, Barbara Broccoli. Love your fucking name because it's such a great vegetable.
Because it's such a great vegetable.
Is there anything wrong with broccoli? No. Although broccoli rabe, ew, it's too bitter. I can't handle that. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Barbara Broccoli's comments. She's doing great by saying, act now, last chance offer. No Time to Die is your last chance to see James Bond, and there'll never be another Bond movie, blah, blah, blah.
She's never said that, though. That's the thing.
Right, but that's what people are
interpreting.
interpreting. So, we're all like speculating, this might be the last Bond, so we have to rush out and see this particular movie. Let's face it, we need a little bit of a break from Bond. We don't want to wear out the brand. And then, the new one, Henry Golding is going to pop up and be like, I'm Bond, James Bond. And everybody's going to freak out and go, oh my God. And now there's he's going to like pop up in one of Leshawna's films, one of the 007 films. And then we're going to get a taste of it and go, oh my gosh, when's the next Bond movie going to come out? And then several years later, that's when he'll pop up with his own film.
See, I think by the end of this movie, I think that James has come out of retirement. I think Leshawna gives up the number and Leshawna becomes like 008 or
She
something
just
along
got
those
the
lines.
number. Why does she have to give it up?
The number's not important. It's just to them. It's just it's an employee number. That's all.
I know.
It is.
So maybe James Bond can be 001.
No. If Wayne Gretzky comes out of retirement, I don't care who else is wearing 99. You give him back 99.
If it's just an employment number, why does it matter, John?
Because if Kobe came out of retirement when he was still living, if he came out of retirement, you bet they would give him back his number. They would totally
I
give
have
him back
some
his
really
number.
bad news for you, John.
I know, but I'm saying is that's the thing when a certain person embodies that number, and I think what they're going to do is Leshawna at the end of this movie, I think Leshawna is going to pull this like really classy move and go, like give him his ID badge, give him his new printed ID badge, and he goes, this is yours, and he's got the 007 again. I think they're going to do something really cool like that.
Yeah, no, I'm not. No,
totally.
I'm sorry. I hate to pull this, and people are going to like flip out on the comments, but. She has earned 007.
Not as much as James Bond.
She has earned it. He gave it up just because he decides, no, never mind, I want my toy back. Doesn't mean that she should have to give it back to him.
No takesy backsies.
But
no takesy backsies.
No, I'm telling you, and it'll be the classic thing because he's James Bond. He's earned it more. Anyway, Chris,
Like
let's go over to you.
constantly having to give
What do you
shit
think
back.
about all this?
I mean, why can't we just be like El Paso taco shells? Why not both? You know?
I don't understand
We
that
can.
reference.
Have you not seen this meme? There's a little commercial of why not both about crunchy tacos and like just regular tacos.
Oh,
I have not.
So, guys, go on the internet. What the heck? So, you have the 007 movie with, you know, Nomi's character doing stuff. And then later on, we can get more stuff with James Bond. These Ian Fleming novels aren't anything new, y'all. The franchise isn't new. We can have a James Bond in any point in time. So whenever they do decide to reboot this, which they will, James Bond and another 007 who's female can exist at the same time, and the world's not going to implode. So we can have both of these kinds of movies, and this franchise as a whole can keep bringing in money. I think that's the route that you go. You just have this thing and this other thing. Try them both out. See what works.
Here's the thing too. This is what, and I haven't heard this from anywhere, so I could be totally wrong about this. But I also believe that once this movie is done, I believe this James Bond universe is done.
Okay.
I believe when they recast, like, I don't think they're going to bring in Henry Golding and go, I have taken on the moniker James Bond. I think when they start with Henry Golding, not that I'm saying it's going to be Henry Golding, I'm just saying, I think when they start the new James Bond with the new James Bond, with the new actor, I think it's going to be, this has always been James Bond kind of world. So it'll be interesting to see what they
you
do.
know what
Kind
I
of like
want to
they've always
see?
done.
I want to see Jack Houston as James Bond, but a throwback. Like, I want to see
Like a Roger Moore.
Yes,
kind
like
of-
a 1960s. You know,
Exactly.
I want to see a Bond girl with a really good name, like Octopussy. Like, that was a good Bond girl name.
All right,
I
guys.
want to see a 40-something-year-old Bond girl.
Oh, they've done it.
Maybe a blonde one. Who's got a deep voice.
Who's the girl in
Sorry,
Matrix 2?
I'm
Who's the
I'm
girl in
fucking
Matrix
unemployed.
2?
I'm constantly looking
like
for
one
jobs.
of the sexiest women alive. The Italian
Oh,
actress.
Monica Bellucci.
Bellucci.
Yeah.
Oh, she was a Bond girl.
Yeah,
She
she
can
was.
still be a Bond girl.
Halle Berry
yeah.
could still be a Bond
Halle
girl.
Berry could totally still be a Bond girl. Anyway, question is, guys, what do you think about all this? How would you approach it? Jump on down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 5. And our 5th main topic today gets submitted to us by Dwayne "The Rock" Thompson, who writes, Hey, John, I know the social media reactions to the new Harley Quinn movie was good, but we've seen that happen before with the full reviews coming later and not being so good. Right now, Birds of Prey has a 90% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Does that give you more optimism about how good the movie may be? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Dwayne. And Dwayne's absolutely right. Now, look, it's always a good sign when the early social media review embargo lists before the full movie review embargo and we hear positive things. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But it's not always the be-all, end-all. Because as Dwayne was referencing, sometimes we've seen situations where a movie gets great initial social media reaction, but then once the reviews come out, it gets tempered. And it gets tempered quite a bit. That has happened from time to time. And a lot of us have wondered, with Birds of Prey, when the early social media review embargo lifted, and we heard all this great stuff about Birds of Prey, a lot of us started wondering, it's like, okay, that's great, but the trailers haven't looked that good. Is this going to be another one of those situations where the full reviews come out and we find out it's really not so hot? Well, as of this writing right now, Birds of Prey is one of the highest critically rated DC films in decades. It's actually, I mean, it's behind Wonder Woman and it's behind Dark Knight. And I think it now just might be a little bit behind Shazam, which has like a 90%, but it's hovering around the 88, 89, 90% mark right now on Rotten Tomatoes, which, listen, color me shocked because that stuns me. It absolutely stuns me. You guys know, if you have watched me for any period of time here, that I have, number one, not been looking forward to this movie. It's not like I've been looking forward to Black Adam and I've been looking forward to Wonder Woman 84. There's just been something about this project that I've never seen the need for it to exist. Not that there's a need for any movie to exist, but I've just never seen how it fits in. What's the point of this? And then the trailers came out. The trailers did not look good to me. I haven't had the greatest thoughts about it. And then the social media thing came out. And I said when the social media thing came out, I was like, okay, all right. And now the full reviews have come out, and has it increased my excitement to see it? I'd be lying if I said it didn't. It does. I actually find myself now very, let's just say, I'm not going to say I'm very excited for the movie, but I'm going to say I am at least somewhat excited now, whereas before I was not. Like, I was so disinterested in this, I skipped on 2 press screenings for it. I'm not all that interested. I'll see you when it comes. But all of a sudden now I'm seeing these reviews. Not that I always agree with the majority of the reviews. I don't always agree. You guys know that. But big social media reaction, big critic reaction. I'm hearing it is the most violent of all the, probably the most violent of all the DC movies we're seeing. That this thing is like this. It's hyper violent, which I've been watching the Harley Quinn animated show, which has blown my mind because I thought that looked dumb as shit, and I didn't want to watch it. And then everybody told me you got to watch it. So fine, I watch it. Now Ann and I are obsessed with that show. And then to hear that they've taken those real visceral, violent roots from that and brought it over to this. Listen, I gotta say, I've gone from not interested to very interested, and I'm gonna see it tonight. So I'm surprised. I am totally surprised, and now my expectations are much higher. Aaron, you've been with me as I've talked about my disinterest of this film, and now we're seeing this all rolling out. Critic reviews now are coming out. They're very, very strong. How are you feeling about this?
Well, just as I have been with you in your disinterest, you have been with me in my extreme interest.
Yes, I have.
As we have talked about, I'm a big Margot Robbie fan, worked with her on Pan Am many years ago, and she is smart. She knows what she's doing. She is on top of her shit. She has said in interviews that there is this myth that women don't enjoy violence, that women don't enjoy action, and she is setting to prove all of that wrong. I love hearing that this is so incredibly violent because it's going to be violent in a, Zoe Bell, who you know.
Yes.
Wonderful.
She's great.
Kill Bill, Uma Thurman's stunt double in Kill Bill 1 and 2, Lucy Lawless's stunt double in Xena, and she has gone on to be an actress in her own right. And as a friend of mine, she did a movie called Raise, which is basically all women, and it is fucking brutal. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. That's another example of, a movie that is being produced by and driven by women that really shows women in a violent nature, but not in a way of being copycats to men. And that's what I'm really excited about, is not just, oh, it's women beating the crap out of each other and beating the crap out of men. It's not about that. It's about how do stories that revolve around violent women differ from stories about violent men, because they are different. And I'm excited to see how this movie juxtaposes those two things. And I think it's one of the reasons why people are so excited about it. And because it's probably something that's fresh and new, not just, oh, here's a bunch of women trying to be like dudes. We don't want to see that. So I'm really excited about this. I just from the posters, I have loved the trailer, the trailers that I've seen. And I feel like it's time for us to just go ahead and accept the fact that this is a badass movie. I'm really excited to see it this weekend. What you're talking about, when does the embargo on the reviews lift?
They're already lifted. The reviews are out.
So then, what are we talking about?
We're talking about all the reviews are really solid. It's got over 88%
right, but he
of Rotten
said
Tomatoes.
when something else when all the final reviews come out.
No, the final reviews are out. What he was talking about is we've often seen when the early social media reviews lift, which they did for Birds of Prey a number of days ago.
Right.
Super positive. That sometimes we see that with the movie, but when the full reviews come out, it disappoints.
Yeah.
But now we've got the full reviews out for Birds of Prey, and they're just as high.
So what is the question here? Is the movie going to do well? Of course it's going to do well. It's going to kill.
I don't know. I don't know how well it's going to do.
I think it's going to do awesome.
I hope so. I hope it does. If it's good. If it's good, I hope it does. Anyway, Chris, you're seeing all this. I don't know, where is your expectation level right now? And are you surprised to see this type of critic review response?
I am surprised, honestly, because I've been more with you on this one, John, as a comic book fan, and you guys have heard me bitch and moan about this. I hated Harley's origin story in the Suicide Squad movie. I hated that movie. Did not like that at all. I don't like when they differ away from the Mad Love origin story that first happened in Batman, the animated series that we've had comic books about, that Paul Dini created, of her being manipulated fully into being with the Joker, falling into a vat of like acid and like getting crazy and having her skin change. I'm not into that storyline. I like the psychological manipulation of one Dr. Harleen Quinzel. So, going into this, not thrilled. Got confused going, is this supposed to be Gotham Sirens? Is this supposed to be Birds of Prey? What is happening? And then, before these reviews came out, Gail Simone, who is best known for writing about Birds of Prey, really gave this her blessing, gave it the seal of approval. And if you guys haven't gotten it yet, go get Birds of Prey Giant #1. It's really amazing. She's got a story in there. And so that paired with this cast, which I am really excited about, my girl Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress, and these reviews, I'm much more optimistic now because I was going into this thinking, well, that looks like a warm fart of a movie. And now I'm much more optimistic, but cautiously optimistic. And that's because I know I'm going to go into it as an actually, actually, I don't know if that would have happened. And I'm trying to slough that off so I can just enjoy this interpretation of some media that I really enjoy.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I am going to go see it later tonight, and I will put up my quick 1-minute reaction to it on the YouTube channel when I come out of the theater. And then, of course, we'll talk more in depth about it tomorrow once I've had a chance to see it. But question is, guys, where are you right now? Like, are you like me where my expectations have been totally low before, but now they're kind of raised? Maybe yours were low and they're still low. Maybe they've always been high. How are you guys feeling about this movie right now? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to a 6th and final main topic here today. And this one, it normally would have been an off the top because it's a story that came in late, but I really wanted to cover the main topic of Kirk Douglas first. So let's talk about this thing here. We've known for a little while now that Doctor Strange 2 is coming. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Enthusiasm took a little bit of a hit, though, at least for me and other people like me, when we found out that Scott Derrickson, who did such a great job doing the near impossible about taking a Doctor Strange movie and making it completely successful and fun and wild and all that kind of stuff. He did a wonderful job on that film. Was really disheartened to hear that he had parted ways with Marvel over creative differences about Doctor Strange 2. That's a bummer. But it did start up the conversation, the question about, where do you go from here then? Who directs it after that? And there were a number of possibilities and a number of pretty good possibilities. But one of the best names possible came up, guys. And here's the thing. That name is Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi is apparently, according to Variety, who did an exclusive report on this, is going to, as at least in that, he's now in final negotiations, which means they've picked him. He wants to do it, and now they're just working out the details. Doesn't 100% mean it's going to get locked in, but normally, once it gets to this stage, it does get locked in. So let's operate on this assumption right now. Sam Raimi's been brought on to direct Doctor Strange 2. And I am going to tell you why this is the perfect choice to replace Scott Derrickson. Now, much like the Batman situation, where all other things being equal, I wanted to see Ben Affleck direct a new Batman film. But hey, if it can't be him, Matt Reeves is as good of a pick as any, and I'm super happy about it. I would have, if I had my first choice, continued to have Derrickson direct Doctor Strange. He did too good of a job on the first one. I really wanted to see his follow-up. But if it can't be him, oh my God, Sam Raimi's the guy. And why is Sam Raimi the guy? Here's why he's the guy. He's the guy because we know that Doctor Strange is going to have horror elements. It sounds like Derrickson and Marvel parted ways over how much horror to have, but we know it's going to have horror elements, and we know it's a comic book movie. Sam Raimi has directed one of the greatest comic book movies of all time in Spider-Man 2. He did a pretty damn good job with Spider-Man 1 as well. We won't talk about Spider-Man 3. But he's directed one of what is acknowledged as one of the greatest comic book films ever in Spider-Man 2. He's also directed some of the most iconic and fun horror in the history of the business. And damn it, what was that one? Drag Me to Hell? Is that the one he did?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love Drag Me to Hell. And you know what? I know not everybody loved it. I got such a kick out of his Wizard of Oz movie. I really liked that Wizard of Oz movie. I mean, was it one of the all-time greats? No, but I really liked it. For him, he's been mostly sitting on the sideline as a director lately, doing a lot of producing and done a great job. But to have him come out, I honestly, I wouldn't have even thought of the name Sam Raimi for this. But it's one of those things that then it did get brought up. It's kind of like when Robert Downey Jr. got cast as Iron Man. Not a name I would have thought of at the time, but once it got brought up, it's like, you know what? That could be really good. Mm-hmm. And it turned out to be great. I love this choice. Now, there are other directors they could have got that I also would have been excited about, but this is definitely one of them. I've already explained why I think that this is one of the best possible outcomes they possibly could have had. I hope this does get locked down like we're thinking will. I love what I'm hearing. I think this is great news. Anyway, Chris, let's go over to you on this. You hear about the possibility of Sam Raimi doing this? Is this a misfit? Maybe he's been out of the game too long from directing. It has been about 6 years since he's directed a feature. How are you feeling about it?
Hell no, it's not wrong. This is awesome. I am so hyped about this. I'm sure all of you are so surprised. Give me some camp in this movie, right? Let's lay into the weirdness. Let's get some Army of Darkness vibes in here, some Bubba Hotep. And we for sure are going to get a Bruce Campbell cameo then.
Oh God, we have to.
It's going to happen and it's going to be so good. I am super, super stoked. Scott did a great job in the first film. Sorry to hear that they split ways. I know he's going to continue doing fantastic work, but Sam Raimi makes me wicked excited about this project.
I'm really stoked about it. Aaron, you hear the name Sam Raimi attached to something like this. Good idea, bad idea, safe idea, risky idea. How do you feel about it?
Great idea. Love Sam Raimi, executive producer of Spartacus Blood and Sand.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. And also, let's not forget Wizard of Oz, one of the last films to benefit from the Michigan tax incentive. So filmed right outside of Detroit. I love Sam Raimi. I think that he does a fantastic job, whether he's putting his sprinkle of magic on it as a producer, whether he's writing it and creating a beautiful, rich story, or he's behind the camera and directing. And he actually has directed, his last project that he directed was in 2017, a short film, which he does a lot of short films, which is kind of cool. Like, I feel like he's one of those people that just loves filmmaking and he just always wants to be doing something, which is really exciting. And, you know, and you're right. He really knows how to capture that campy horror, you know, Ash versus Evil Dead,
which is so perfect for the MCU.
Totally. So, you know, all the way back from Evil Dead to begin with, and then now even still he's directing episodes of Ash versus Evil Dead, or he was still directing episodes of Ash versus Evil Dead. And I'm gonna have to go look up Attack of the Pillsbury Doughboy, because one of his earlier unknown projects that really is speaking my name. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for this, and I think that if we can't have our first choice, and he's definitely a very close second, and the franchise will not be suffering for him as a director.
Yeah, again, guys, look, if I had my way, Scott would still be attached to all that kind of stuff, but we don't. So what's the next best thing? And I think, man, I don't know of another name that could have been brought up that would have got me more excited. I mean, aside from an obvious one like Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, or, you know, Antoine Fuqua would actually, don't laugh, I had a good conversation with somebody about why Antoine Fuqua would actually be a really good fit for Doctor Strange. I'll share that with you another time. But Sam Raimi for this, with the comedy, with the comic book movie experience, with the horror movie pedigree that he brings to it, I think this is a match made in cinematic heaven. I really do. How will it turn out? I don't know. Question is, how do you guys feel about this? Like, are you as excited as we are around here about this? Maybe you're seeing some really big pitfalls that we're kind of overlooking right now. Maybe there's a problem with this. I don't know. How do you feel about it right now? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that stuff down and out of the way, I'm going to move on now to the live questions. But before we do, we're going to take a break and we're going to use this opportunity to say goodbye to Aaron and Chris for being here. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Aaron, first of all, where can people follow you and your adventures and the adventures of Joey Bishop online?
Thank you. You can follow me at Aaron L. Cummings, and you can also check me out on cameo.com/Aaron L. Cummings. And you can check out Joey and her brothers and sisters at Rat Pack Cats on Instagram.
I didn't even know that. I gotta go look that up. Also joining us, of course, is Chris Carr. Chris, where can people find you and your stuff online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at actor Chris Carr, and you can find my videos over on Nerdwire. I have been watching BoJack like crazy, you guys, so there's a ton of videos on that, and Lock and Key is coming up soon.
All right, guys. So once again, hang tight, everybody. Going to take just a little brief break here, 4 minutes to stretch the legs, rest the vocal cords, refill my drink. So hang tight. Don't go anywhere, guys, and we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Okay. And we are back. Thank you so much for your indulgence and patience as I took a little bit of a break there to go refill the drink and stretch the legs a little bit. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into the live questions. By the way, guys, if you want to send in live questions, you can use the tip link that's at the top line of the description of this video. That's simply at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You can use that tip link, by the way, anytime 24/7, even when the show's not on, and you can see it on the next show, or you can use the super chat feature. Okay, let's dive right into it. And we're going to pick things up here with Jared Shirley Garcia, who writes, do you think releasing Sonic on Valentine's Day is a bad move? Couples will be busy with their partners. Your thoughts? Actually, I think quite the opposite. Yes, couples will be busy with their significant others, and one of the things they love to do is go to the movies. It's date night, and a lot of people like to make going to the movies and a night as a part of a night out. So yeah, listen, not that I think Sonic is a movie that's designed for a Valentine's Day or anywhere around Valentine's Day, but there's nothing wrong with it, and it's a good release date, so why not take advantage of that? All right, Mark C. writes, John, your point of view about the halftime show is definitely someone who doesn't have kids. Stripper poles and half-clothed booty shaking. I shouldn't feel like I need to hand a sack of ones to my 10-year-old son for the Super Bowl. Dude, get over it. Get over it. I'm sorry. There is nothing done at the Super Bowl show that isn't done, and more so at every NFL game every week. Hold on a second. Let me pull something up here. 1 second. I mean, this whole thing about, oh my gosh, look how scantily clad they are. There we go. Let me bring this up here for a second. Every week at the NFL, you've got half-naked women gyrating as hard as they can in the tightest, shortest things that they possibly can every single week, with the shortest skirts showing the most skin that they possibly can, that they can possibly pull together every single week. You know, J-Lo's wearing a full body unitard. I know it was skin colored, but she was still wearing a full body unitard. There was nothing more risque that they did in that halftime show that we don't see the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders or the Atlanta Falcon cheerleaders or any of the other cheerleaders do every single week. So I mean, and last year, you know, Adam Levine's running around totally shirtless and all that kind of stuff. Nobody had a problem with it. I'm sorry, I just saw nothing borderline about it. Was it sexy? Yeah, it was sexy. But I mean, so it's what they do every single week. So what I would say to you, brother, my brother in movie fandom, is that if you had a problem with that and you don't think you can let your kid watch because that might be on the screen at some point at halftime, then you can't let your kid watch it all, because they're always putting the cameras over to the cheerleaders with their cleavage heaving and the tightest little booty shorts that they can possibly put on and blah, blah, blah. So if you got a problem with one, you got to have a problem with the other. I'm just saying, that's just my point of view. But the one thing that I cannot deny that you said in your statement is, I don't have a kid. So I'm saying all that as somebody without a kid, and I'm fully admitting that. You're right. That gives you a different perspective than it does to me. But from my perspective, I'm like, we see girls in hot little booty shorts shaking their ass all the time. I mean, at these NFL games. So if you're not, you can't be okay with one and not with the other. I mean, that's just kind of my perspective on it. But maybe, as you're suggesting, maybe my perspective would be a little bit different if I actually had kids. Don't know. It's a fair thing to say, Mark. Fair thing to say. All right. Next up. Who is next? Not My Episode 9 writes, one of two. The Knights of Ren are from the unknown regions and were led by a man just called Ren. Luke and Ben actually fought with them, and Ren sensed the dark side in Ben and told him to contact him when he wanted to learn more about the dark side. After the temple's destruction, he contacted Ren and joined the Knights of Ren. Eventually, Ben inherited the Knights from Ren after passing some trials. Here's the thing. None of that's in the movies. And what we have come to learn is that what's in the movies doesn't matter. And what's in anything else, in any other source material outside of it, doesn't matter. I know the Star Wars universe is supposed to be canon, but we've already seen that that's not the case. And by the way, all that stuff still does not negate the possibility that some of those students who ran away with Kylo were also just kind of joined and initiated. I'm just saying that there's nothing in there that exclusively excludes that possibility. But again, we have just come to the point where there's been so much contradiction now between all Star Wars sources outside of the movies compared to the movies that I just don't take any of it seriously anymore. I can't take any, all I go on now is what is in the movies. That's it. That's where we've gotten to now. It's what's in the movies. Because as soon as we get to the novelizations that has Poe and Rey meeting at one point, and then the movies is showing us meeting at a different point, then that does it. I mean, the facade of canon is now gone. So on the one hand, I would say everything you just said still doesn't negate the possibility that other students went along. But even if it did, it doesn't really matter because external to the movie sources don't really matter much anymore. I mean, it's just kind of where I'm at with that. It's a good observation. I'm just saying I just don't trust anything outside of the movies anymore. All right. Anyway, Jeffrey Hempel writes, they should make a Chewie movie and also a Lando movie to go along with the Solo movie. Thus, it will be a new and complete trilogy. Good idea? I don't think so. I still listen. I liked the Solo movie. Actually, I quite enjoyed the Solo movie. I thought the Solo movie was a lot of fun. That being said, it still never should have been made. I said that from the day they announced the movie. It's not a movie they should have ever made. Nobody wanted a Han Solo movie that wasn't being played by Harrison Ford when we just had Harrison Ford on the screen as Han Solo. Nobody wanted it. Now, obviously, I'm using hyperbole. Obviously, there are some people who wanted it. I'm just speaking in hyperbole and generalizations. Nobody asked for it. Nobody wanted it. And with the results financially that you got from Solo, you absolutely can't make a case for doing a standalone Chewie or a standalone Lando movie. Not with what happened with Solo. I just don't see a studio getting on board with it. And it's time to move Star Wars away from the characters we already know. It's time to move Star Wars in new directions like The Mandalorian did. Show us new corners of the galaxy, new characters, new heroes, new villains within this universe that we love. It's time to move away from that. So anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that, Jeffrey. Not trying to yuck on your yum. I'm just saying that's kind of how I feel about it. All right, Dave M. writes, although Rise of Skywalker was on my top 10 yesterday, even Eileen... Let me try this again. Although Rise of Skywalker was on my top 10 yesterday, even I lean with what could have been with Duel of the Fates, if for no other reason than seeing Rey wield a double-sided lightsaber, which J.J. Abrams himself foreshadowed by giving her a staff in The Force Awakens. That's a give or take of myself. But listen, look, hindsight is 2020, right? Hindsight is 2020. If I enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker, which I did not, I know a lot of people did, and that's awesome. I'm just saying I didn't, and that's okay. If I had enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker, maybe I would have been, yeah, it's good that they moved on. But I'm sitting here having already watched Rise of Skywalker and not enjoyed it. And so almost anything seems like a better idea. Like when you don't like a movie, almost anything else seems like it would have been a better idea. And who knows, maybe they would have done that Duel of the Fates script and maybe it would have been even worse. But I gotta say, and I'm cognizant of the fact that I have that predisposition. I'm just saying that I thought there was a lot of very interesting stuff in that Duel of the Fates script. I thought there was a lot of really interesting stuff. And of course, having seen Rise of Skywalker and not liked it, yes, I would have preferred them to have done Duel of the Fates. But again, everything in hindsight is 2020. Who knows how I would have felt 6 months ago if you had showed me the script for Rise of Skywalker and showed me the script for Duel of the Fates. Maybe I would have picked Rise of Skywalker. I don't know. It's impossible for me to say now because I've seen Rise of Skywalker and I didn't like it. So it's hard to say what I would have thought back then, but right now, yeah, clearly, I wish they would have done that one. All right, Willow writes, I've tried out a Landmark Theater in New Westminster. They have really comfortable reclining sofa seats, and the ticket prices are a bit cheaper than Cineplex. Nice. I hope they'll open one in Vancouver soon. Yeah, Landmark, from what I understand, like the big cinema chain in Canada is Cinemark, or Cineplex, I should say. They practically have a monopoly. But I've been hearing more and more Landmark has been trying to become a competitor. I hope they do because Cineplex has been a monopoly for too long. And when you're a monopoly, you eventually become really shitty. And they've become really shitty, in my opinion. They've become really, really shitty. So they've gone from my favorite movie theater chain in the world to being one of the worst. And I really hope that Landmark offers Canadians a better option for a movie-going experience. And when Canadians start choosing the better movie-going experience with another company, that maybe that'll force Cineplex to rethink their lives and stop screwing around and get back to being an ethical, well-intentioned, well-executed company. Because right now they're just shit, in my opinion. In my opinion, they're just totally shit, but that's just me. Anyway, I'm glad you found that, Willow. I'm glad you found that. I hope they catch on. All right, Grayson writes, both this year and last, comic book movies and international films have been nominated for Best Picture. I was wondering what you think would be more historic and likely to happen first, an international comic book or animated film to win Best Picture. Honestly, the more historic would be an animated film. I mean, I know right now, all of us, including me, are all comic book movies. I know that's what we do right now. I get it, we do. But animated film has been around since film, practically. And they have been seriously, like very, very, very few years can you make an argument that a comic book movie could have won a Best Picture at the Academy Award. Very, very few years you can make a actual sane argument for that. But there have been so many years where, like, I remember we've talked about this before. There was a streak of like 6 or 7 years in a row where an animated film was actually the number one critically rated film of the year, and it didn't even get nominated for Best Picture. For an animated film, for the Academy to finally go, a movie is a movie, a story is a story, whether it's in physical, manifestation or an animated manifestation, whatever the medium is, a great movie is a great movie. And for an animated film to win Best Picture, I actually feel like that would be the more historic. Because look, at the end of the day, comic book movies are like any other genre of movies. They will come, they will go. They will have their peaks, then they will go through a dry spell, and then they'll come back and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is. Animation as a medium, not a genre, a medium, I think for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades has not received the respect it deserves. And that's why I think right now an animated film winning Best Picture would probably be the more historic. But it would be great to see any of the three things. I mean, damn it, Logan should have won Best Picture. Anyway, that's just me. Good question, Grayson. All right, Luis writes, I have seen the Doom Patrol light. As much as you praise the show, it's still exceeding my expectations. Love the heartfelt moments and all the characters, but nobody makes me laugh harder than Cliff. Cliff is great. Highly recommend for those still on the fence. Doom Patrol is like Harley Quinn, a show, because listen, I tried Titans on the DC streaming service. And despite the fact that it shoots in the greatest city in the world, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, my hometown, I did not think it was very good. I never watched season 2 because I watched season 1, did not work for me. So when Doom Patrol was coming out, I'm like, nope, no interest. But everybody kept telling me, try Doom Patrol. Try Doom Patrol. And I finally did, and I'm so glad I did, because that that show frickin' rocks. I love Doom Patrol. I mean, everything. Mr. Nobody was one of the great. The villain actually narrates the show. I find it funny, but it's surprisingly deep. Once you get past like the incredible laughs, and you actually look below the surface of the laughs, it's an incredibly deep show that touches on some really big, heavy issues that is touching and warm while being completely irreverent and hilarious. And I gotta tell you, man, I'm so on board with it. I'm glad you like it as well, Louise. All right, Rich from Queens writes, had a dream I watched Justice League versus Avengers, real life movie, Thor versus Superman, Iron Man versus Batman, etc. It was an amazing dream, and it got me thinking, what would your dream movie be, plausible or not, if you had full control over the movie gods? Nothing like DC versus Marvel, because that would just be a convoluted mess in my estimation. A dream movie? I don't know. I mean, I go back to movies that I really would have loved to have seen sequels to. Like, I would have loved to have seen sequels to, Mystery Men. God, I think a Mystery Men movie today, Mystery Men was so far ahead of its time that you do a Mystery Men sequel today, I think it could be absolutely ripping hilarious. Absolutely ripping hilarious. I think it would be just incredible. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, certainly not comic book genre or anything like that. I really don't know outside of all that, but damn, I always wanted a mystery movie one. I really did. And by the way, I just noticed, Richard, you put in like a $50 tip. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, man. We really appreciate you around here. So we're also going to answer your question in its own standalone video in the coming weeks. Keep your guys' eyes open. You guys have been noticing we're getting caught up on all the $50 questions. Have you noticed that? Anyway, I still have a bunch to get caught up on, though. I mean, ultimately right now, if I had all the power in the world in Hollywood, I would be lying if I didn't say I would want to go back and revisit the Star Wars movies. Now, don't get me wrong. The modern Star Wars movies. Don't get me wrong. I love The Force Awakens. I really love Rogue One. I quite enjoyed Solo. I like The Last Jedi. I mean, there's things about The Last Jedi that I desperately love. And then there's things about The Last Jedi that I really don't like. But overall, I enjoy The Last Jedi. Did not like The Rise of Skywalker, but overall, if I could go back, even though I love The Force Awakens, and in general, I like the Star Wars movies as they are now, other than The Rise of Skywalker, I have a feeling like if there were no consequences and I had all the money in the world and all the power in the world to do it, I would go back to Episode 7 and start over. I wouldn't do all the fan servicey stuff that some people online wish Star Wars would have done, because I don't want Star Wars just to become a blatant fan service orgy, but I would have taken it in a different direction. Again, not to say that I'm not appreciative of a number of the movies that we have in this new Star Wars film. I am very appreciative of a number of them, but I think I would take the overall thing in a different direction. And I'm biased because Luke Skywalker is my all-time favorite character, so obviously I would make the new movies more Luke-focused, but I don't know. I mean, I'd have to think about that. It's an interesting question, Rich. Thanks for bringing it up, man, and I'll address it again in its own standalone video another time. Thank you for bringing it up, man. All right, Rafael Castillo writes, one of two. A gut-wrenching loss to Hollywood, his millions of fans, not to mention his family. It's not hyperbole to say Kirk Douglas was a supreme, legendary talent and icon. Two of my favorite films of his are Spartacus, screenplay by the blacklisted Dalton Trumbo, Douglas's idea, and Lust for Life. Ooh, that's a good one too. And I'm a huge Van Gogh fan, and he's phenomenal as Vincent. Still a long, glorious life. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And it's weird. A dude who's 103... you shouldn't be surprised to hear that he has passed away. And yet, I'm totally surprised. Because you get to a point where it feels like this dude's going to live forever, right? Because I remember seeing him on this thing like over 20 years ago. I saw him on this thing over 20 years ago. And he was like in his 80s. And you're thinking, man, it's just so great that we still have a Kirk Douglas here. If you had asked me, will he still be around 2 decades from now? I mean, and at some point you just kind of begin to believe, you know what? Kirk Douglas may be an eternal. He might just be an Eternal. I won't be surprised if this new MCU movie is actually a biopic about Kirk Douglas. But yeah, like truly one of the most iconic, legendary, Mount Olympus level, true great Hollywood movie stars of all time. It's not you're right. It's not hyperbole to put it that way. And it's not an exaggeration. He is simply that great. And his place in the pantheon is simply that high. And if anything good can come out of his passing at this point in time, I hope it's that a lot more people now going, wow, Kirk Douglas passed away, will motivate people to go back. Because I know a lot of people don't like watching movies that came out before their 25th birthday. But I hope a lot of people want to go back and check him out because he's just made some of the most memorable, iconic, and important cinema of all time. And by all means, please do start with Spartacus. Please do start with Spartacus. Anyway, nicely said, Raphael. Okay, where are we at here? Raphael also writes, I'm the anonymous one mentioning Spartacus. Oh, and yeah, that was clear. Don't worry about that, dude. Totally got you, but thank you for following up anyway. Eric C. writes, I don't know if it should, don't know if should praise WB's marketing department or not. Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, and Suicide Squad had wonderful trailers. Saw them day one with disappointment. Aquaman and Shazam, lackluster trailers, and I love them. Harley Quinn is following that trend. Yeah, listen, for the longest time, DC's films, say what you want about how you felt about the movies, their trailers have been pretty damn spectacular. They've been pretty damn spectacular. I thought the Aquaman trailers were really good, to be honest with you. And I did enjoy the movie. I thought Shazam's trailers were actually pretty funny. So yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. I liked Aquaman's trailers and I liked Shazam trailers. Maybe they weren't on the same level as, the Bohemian Rhapsody, Suicide Squad one, or as much as, the Batman versus Super one. Do you bleed? You will. I mean, you put that into trailers like, oh my God. Like the moment that's crazy. Orgasmic inducing stuff. Crazy orgasmic inducing stuff. And maybe the Aquaman one and the Shazam ones weren't on that level, but I still thought they were quite good. Listen, whichever trailer company that Warner Brothers employs to do their DC movie trailers does a damn good job. Sometimes giving way too much away, like in that one Batman vs. Superman trailer where you actually see Doomsday. It's like, the movie's called Batman vs. Superman, and you're showing us the end where Batman and Superman team up to fight the surprise villain. But they got everybody excited. So, Eric, I would vote yes, praising them, because I think they do a pretty good job. All right, Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, R.I.P. Kirk Douglas, in honor of his wonderful life and career. Here's my top 5 of his movies. Number 1, Paths of Glory. Number 2, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Number 3, Spartacus. Number 4, The Fury. Number 5, The Man from Snowy River. I'm actually drawing a blank on The Man from Story. Now I got to go and watch a Kirk Douglas movie that maybe I'm a little bit behind on. Thank you for putting that up, Timbula. Well said, sir. All right. Daniel Vasquez writes, do you remember Teletubbies? Oh, yes. I remember Teletubbies. Whew. The real John Campea writes, Sam Raimi will get to direct Doctor Strange 2 when he fixes this damn door. I'm sure there's a reference in there somewhere, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Sophia Villasenor writes, the Charlie Day shirt stain commercial and showing up throughout the Super Bowl was very clever, and I haven't seen it done before. I'll tell you what, at first I thought it was dumb. And then as it kept going on, I don't know. I don't know if I started to get it or if I just started buying into it. Because at first I thought, oh, come on. And then they kept going with it. And by the time you got to the last one or two, I was kind of giggling. So I agree with you, Sophia. It was actually pretty clever to see a really creative use of marketing throughout like that. But man, that wasn't cheap. Because you're talking like over $5 million for a 30-second spot. And they kept putting that in there. So, I mean, I think they split the cost by cross-promoting some other things as well. But still, they committed to that campaign. They totally committed to that. All right, Marvin Gutierrez writes, Sir Lord Campea, I've come for help. There's a girl in my class that I want to ask out on a date. We've had some get to know you conversations, but whenever I talk to her, I begin stuttering and get nervous. Any advice, please? Dude, you are asking the wrong guy. I mean, stone cold truth here. Women have always terrified me. And what I mean by that is that I was never... listen, you guys have heard me say this before. I'm actually an incredibly socially awkward person. I really am. And I don't have, quite frankly, and just to be honest, I'm cognizant of that, I don't have the best social skills. I really don't. I'm aware of that. I just don't. And that might strike some people as weird because I appear on camera, I talk to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people a month and blah, 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 blah. But honestly, I'm more comfortable sitting at home, just cuddled up to Anne on the couch and watching a movie than I am going out and being in a crowd of people. And so the vast majority of the relationships I had in my life were actually when she would initiate the relationship because I was just too socially awkward. And I was always afraid. You know what? This is true. I might have told you this story before. This is how aware I am of how I just, as a man, I never want to freak a woman out because like, even when I'm walking alone at night, even in a totally safe city like Burbank, if I'm walking down a sidewalk at night, I'm walking downtown Burbank, going to a movie, or I'm coming back from a movie, whatever. If I see way ahead of me, a woman by herself walking towards me, my first thought, and this is totally messed up. My first thought is she's going to think I'm a mugger because I'm walking down the same sidewalk and I don't want her to feel scared or intimidated. And I literally will cross the street because I'm so socially weird and awkward that I just think everything is socially awkward and weird. It's like, I don't want to create an uncomfortable situation for anybody. So I will literally cross the street even if that's not the side of the street I need to be on. I'm not kidding. That's totally what I do. It's totally what I do. So every relationship I've ever had was always initiated by the woman. And that includes Anne. Anne initiated our relationship. Anne reached out. We had met at a party that I was throwing. And the next day I was doing a live show. And she called in to the live show and then asked the producers of the show for my contact information. And that's how we first hit it off and we went out and we've been together ever since. But so Marvin, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. All I can say is if you guys get to the point that you guys feel comfortable going out, make your first date a movie and dinner. Not dinner and a movie and then dinner. Make that your first date. I've talked about that a lot. Anyway, that's just me. Okay, let's see. Min writes, Billie Eilish is set to have a special performance at the Oscars on Sunday. Percentage chance that she debuts the new Bond song. Ooh. You know what, Min? I never considered that, but that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I never would have thought about that, but I actually think, yeah, you use that to promote the new movie. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with you on that. Here's what it'll probably do. She'll probably do a quick short medley. One will probably be Bad Guy because that's her popular one, and then flow into the new song. They'll keep it short and they'll make it kind of a mashup, if you will, a little bit, but they'll flow it into the new song and then they'll go from there. I think that's how they'll do it. I don't know for sure, but I think that's how they'll do it. So let's see here. Let's move on. Travis H. writes, recently rewatched Temple of Doom. Love that. I know it came out before PG-13 rating, but it's so hard to believe it was rated PG. It's so dark and creepy for a PG movie. There is literally a scene where they're about to burn a man to death. A creepy looking guy stands in front of the chained up dude, thrusts his hands into his chest and pulls out his beating heart. That upon the man being lowered into the lava, his heart bursts into flames and burns in the man's hand. PG. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right, Travis. Had the rating system been what it was, that would have got a PG-13 for sure. But it is just an example of, I think people can get away with more in a PG-13 movie than you normally could. But yeah, man, like, you look, that's PG. Anyway, J Meister 25 writes, wonder how much horror Sam Raimi is going to bring forth, what with it being the multiverse and all, and I'm strictly speaking horror, not gore. I always believe that the MCU was intending to have a good horror element to this movie. I just suspect that Derrickson wanted to lean more into the horror than Kevin Feige was comfortable with. I think Derrickson, and again, I'm just speculating here. Let's be clear. I'm just speculating. But from what I understand, it feels like Scott Derrickson really wanted to lean more heavily into the horror elements than even Kevin Feige wanted to go. But I think Kevin Feige wants to have some horror elements in there. And as such, that's what I think makes Sam Raimi such a great fit for this. Because hell, even if you look at Army of Darkness, right? You've got horror that's also mixed with great fun and laughs at the same time. I mean, that just is kind of the MCU DNA, is balancing those things out. So it'll be interesting. You're right. It'll be interesting to see how far into horror they go. I just suspect it's not going to be too far, but enough. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Ron Swanson, one of the greatest television characters of all time, writes, Dear Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, you are the celery of Star Wars. Be the last Jedi or be nothing. Oh, Star Wars. That does sound like something Ron Swanson would say. It's funny. My brother-in-law, Ray, I can't remember but he had YouTube on here the other day, and he was watching some of the best moments of Ron Swanson. And it came across that one moment is, any dog under 50 pounds is a cat, and cats are useless, and then moves on. But that does sound like you are the celery. I'm trying to remember what exactly that line was from, though. It was Ron Swanson who said it. You are the celery of something, and I can't remember what it was, though. And I just heard him say that line the other day. One of the greatest television characters of all time, Ron Swanson, from Parks and Rec, for those of you who don't know. All right, Anthony R. writes, I was rewatching that fast food scene from Falling Down. Whoo! Do you think that's why McDonald's serves Do you think that's why McDonald's serves breakfast all day? Listen, I'll tell you what. My favorite thing, I don't do McDonald's much. My wife loves McDonald's, and particularly chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets. True story. My wife is so psycho for chicken nuggets. She loves chicken. I mean, she's obsessed with chicken nuggets. Loves chicken nuggets. Chicken McNuggets, I should say. And all of us in our circle of friends know this, right? So a couple of years ago, there was a news story came out at a McDonald's in Burbank. A woman was arrested. True story. A woman, go and look this up. A woman was arrested at a McDonald's in Burbank who was trying to solicit herself for prostitution in exchange for chicken McNuggets. Like she was offering her services, if you will, for chicken McNuggets. To which everybody in our circle of friends starts writing, and with question marks, because that's how much she is into it. Anyway, I will have McDonald's once in a while. When I do, I will normally just get like a McChicken sandwich or something, just nice, simple, whatever. But my favorite thing actually on the McDonald's menu has always been their sausage and egg McMuffins. I'm a fan of their sausage and egg McMuffins. I am. And it would always frustrate me that I would go to McDonald's and I'd never be there before 10 o'clock. And so I could very, very rarely ever get it. And it would always frustrate me. So today was, when the day that they announced it was like 24 hours, it was a day of great celebration. But I don't think it had anything to do with falling down. Speaking of Michael Douglas. And Anthony R. also writes, John, Rob, I'm 32. As a kid that grew up in the 90s, I remember movie theaters playing the score to the movie before the trailer started. Do you remember this, or was this just in my city, New York? It wasn't my thing in Canada. It sounds like a pretty cool thing. I kind of dig that idea. As a matter of fact, maybe there is some history to that, because when I go to like a premiere or something like that, whether it's a Warner Brothers premiere or a Disney premiere or something, they will often be playing the score to the movie before the movie starts at premieres. But at actual movie theaters, I never had that in Canada. I never had that. Not to say it never happened in Canada, but I don't have any recollection of that. But that sounds like actually a pretty cool idea to do. I like that. Anyway, Jesse Lopez writes, one of two. Let's not forget, at one point, Raimi was attached to produce a live-action film adaptation of the critically acclaimed game The Last of Us. This is true. 2 of 2. With the game sequel coming out this year and Raimi possibly directing Doctor Strange, I don't think Last of Us film is happening anytime soon. Well, I wouldn't get ahead of yourself too much. Producing is a very nebulous term. I mean, Steven Spielberg is producing 5 films at any given moment. I mean, it feels like it. So it all depends on how heavily involved he is. And him being a producer on it is not stopping that movie. Listen, don't think for a second, Jesse. Don't think for a second that just because Sam Raimi is directing a movie, that means another potential movie project that he was just attached to as a producer can't get rolling. They can totally do it. And he can still be a producer. But again, producer is such a nebulous term. Somebody can be a producer on a movie who literally made one phone call. I'm not kidding. There are movies that have somebody's name on the credits as a producer, whether it's producer, executive producer, co-producer, associate producer, whatever, where they literally maybe made one phone call on behalf of the movie. It's like, oh, you want this guy in the movie? Yeah, I know him. Okay, I'll make a call and set it up, but give me a producer credit. Okay, it can be that. Or it can be somebody who worked tirelessly day and night for 3 years on the movie, and they are also a producer. It's a very nebulous term, so don't think for a second that just because Sam Raimi is directing Doctor Strange 2, that means the Last of Us movie can't possibly happen. Like, don't think that at all. Don't think that at all. All right. Jake C. writes, what comes first, Flash movie or Star Wars movie without drama? Well, considering right now they say they're moving ahead with the Flash movie, and we don't even know when another Star Wars movie is coming, I'd say the Flash movie might be a while before we see a Star Wars movie without drama. All right, Cinema Reviews writes, I expect this will lead to rumors and or speculation that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man will appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Dude, I didn't even think about that. Oh, you're damn right. You're damn right that just any minute now, what's the name of that? I can't remember. We Got This Covered. We Got This Covered is going to put out a story saying, we hear a report that Tobey Maguire is going to appear as Spider-Man in... I don't even know. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Dude, you are so on the money, it's scary. You are so on the money with that prediction, it is absolutely scary. All right. Casinma also writes, if you see another tip from me today, it's not me. Got it, because apparently some people writing with other people saying, I don't know why losers will do that. Intellectual Pizza writes, what person would you choose for a biopic movie? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about this before. There's a lot of historical figures I would love to see. There's a lot of U.S. presidents. I would love to see a biopic about the 72 Summit series. Just because it had such national implications, and I mean, so that'd be huge, but I don't think a lot of other people would be involved in that. I don't know, the guy who cured polio, the guy who, I mean, that's the stuff I'm more interested in. That's for me, at any rate. Let's see. Matsive Jada writes, why is Laura Dern Oscar frontrunner? Role was average. Listen, all film is subjective, and if that's how you saw it, then that's how you saw it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's fucking insane. That was not a merely average role. She crushed that role with such depth and such nuance. That's why, because it was insanely good. It didn't hit you that way, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Your opinion is no more and no less valid than mine. But since you're asking me, I think that's a crazy point of view. I think she was stellar. That role was crazy good. Crazy good. Anyway, Suthius writes, please don't have Strange dancing down the street. What, you don't want to see an emo Doctor Strange? Come on, who doesn't want an emo Doctor Strange? All right, Ona Ho writes, Parasite was my #1 film, but after seeing JoJo, I'm stuck. They both use humor to mask how dark they really are. Both speak to the human condition, humanity's folly, and social injustice. They are different yet very similar movies. To me, they are neck and neck. Dude, I'm telling you, that is why they are my #1 and #2 movies of the year. JoJo gets the nod a little bit for me, but Parasite is very firmly in my #2 spot. I was floored by that movie. Absolutely floored by Parasite. And you want to hear something fun? How's this for a double feature? I saw Parasite and Jojo Rabbit on the same night. Because I remember I did a double feature. I hadn't seen either one of them yet. And I went in and watched Parasite, and I came out and did my 1 minute quick reaction. I'm like, this is my new favorite #1 movie of the year. And then I turned around, walked back into the theater, went to go see Jojo Rabbit, came right back out, and I'm like, this is my new #1 favorite movie of the year. It was an absolutely wonderful, tremendous double feature that I had so much fun at. But yeah, these movies are incredible. 1917 is my #3 movie of the year. Spectacular, awe-inspiring movie. So good that I will have no problems, no arguments, and no complaints when it wins Best Picture. And I do believe it'll win. But I'll still keep my fingers crossed for Jojo Rabbit. And Parasite was just incredible. All right. Murray Reich writes, hey, John, I sent you an email regarding my tips that were sent Tuesday night at approximately 1 a.m. I got your email. Don't need to rehash it here. I will double check on that, but I did not see any come in, but I will double check on that. But again, guys, behind the scenes paperwork stuff, this is not the best, avenue to send that stuff in because that's not what other people are interested in. All right. Ona Ho writes, I almost hated you for keeping reminding me to watch out for that shoe scene. My head was like, what's the twist throughout? But all that expectation, I certainly didn't expect that. My jaw was on the floor the entire scene. I couldn't close my mouth. Dude, I know that scene was there. I said this before when it came out, and some people thought I might have been exaggerating. But after I saw JoJo for the first time, I said, the shoe scene is something that I will think about for the rest, much like I am Spartacus. Like, that's a forever thing to me, that scene in Spartacus. The shoe scene will be a forever moment to me in movies. There aren't a lot of moments in movies that have hit me so profoundly on a deep and emotional level, like when that moment happens. And again, if you haven't seen the movie, you have no idea what we're talking about. But when that happens in the movie, it hit me in such an emotional level, it will be with me forever. That moment in that movie will be with me forever. And again, if you haven't seen the movie, there's no explaining it. There's just no explaining it. You got to see the movie. And even if you know there's something big coming called the shoe scene, you won't be prepared for it. You won't be prepared for it. It is simply one of the most beautiful, heart-wrenching, powerful scenes that you can see. It's just an amazing, amazing, amazing moment. Anyway, an anonymous viewer writes, after seeing JoJo, I wouldn't mind having Scarlett as my mom. Man, what a great mom she was. Also, I think I'm in love with the Jewish girl, Elsa. She was cute, strong, and clever. Please don't judge me. No, the character was so good. I mean, that's the thing. It's every element. This is why Jojo Rabbit is my favorite film of the year. Every moment of that movie. There's no wasted moments in this movie. Every single moment, and that includes every single character, contributes to the story. Every moment. This is such an efficient movie as well. Like, I love Irishman, and Irishman is in my top 10 of the year, but it is a movie that was completely not efficient. There is so much in that movie that didn't need to be there in order to make the movie as good as it was. Like, there's super long movies that you needed every moment to make the movie as good as it was. Irishman is fantastic, but you could have cut about 30 minutes of that movie out. It's a lot of redundancy in that movie that didn't need to be there to make the movie as good as it was. But Jojo Rabbit is a very efficient film. Every scene, every line of dialogue, every character interaction involvement, all contributed and played into the tapestry of the movie. And yeah, and Elsa was absolutely one of those. Absolutely one of those. Anyway, God writes in, it was Kirk Douglas's time to leave humanity behind. He was undeserving of 104. May he rest in peace. I promise to take care of him, Giovanni. Again, it is so weird. You're just not used to hearing so-and-so passes away at the age of, and the number starting with 10, and there being another number after it. I mean, it's so weird when you think about it. This dude. I mean, this dude just lived it, man. He lived it. He literally saw the world change. He saw the world change. He was around in 1917. Think about that. Think about what the world looked like in like a 1935, as he's a teenager in 1935. and what the world looked like to him at that point, and then what he got to see, how he got to watch the world change. I mean, that's all aside from his career. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Nosferatu writes, what's the difference between a hippo and a Zippo? Answer, a hippo is really heavy and a Zippo is a little lighter. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Sorry, but I'm sure everybody else is laughing their asses off and they're getting it. They're like, Campea, why don't you get it? It's going over my head right now. All right. Superman Steve writes, John, first, absolutely massive congratulations. I really loved your speech. You looked incredible too. Thank you so much for always bringing us the best movie related show. Well, thank you so much. You know what? I'll take that opportunity. I didn't mention it off the top here. I'll mention it quickly. So yeah, last night was the awards ceremony. And Anne and I was nominated. Now it was all for film, but they did have a category for film critic, and I was nominated. That's me and Anne at the event last night before it was starting. And let me see if I can just turn that one screen off. There we go. I'll say that should do. Okay, so Anne and I were there last night. That was us just before the show started. And it was really great. They even had a category for Oscar snub where they mentioned all the people who got Oscar snub. The winner was Lulu Wang for The Farewell. Totally love that. And it turns out I ended up winning. There's my little award. This at the end, they brought up all the various winners and nominees for a big photo on stage at the end. You can see us up there. So it was a really, really fun, honoring. I was floored to be able to be a part of it. It was a great night. I had a wonderful time. One of the best things about it was I was nominated against one of my all-time heroes, Leonard Maltin, who was one of the other nominees, and it was just an amazing evening. I had such a great time. So thank you for mentioning that, Superman Steve. I appreciate that very much. And if, for those of you who are interested, I did put up just a short little video on the YouTube channel last night, just of me giving my very brief acceptance speech for it. So if you want to see it, it is up there. So thank you for mentioning that, Superman Steve. I appreciate that. All right, Mandalorian of Gondor writes, one of two. My next top 10 is performance of the best performance of the last decade. Number 10, Eisenberg in The Social Network. I didn't think his performance was all that great. I'm in the minority on that, but I thought his Jesse Eisenberg in that was okay. But I never thought it was all that great, but I am in the minority on that. Number 9, DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street. Number 8, Lupita Nyong'o in 12 Years a Slave. Number 7, J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. Number 6, Colette in Hereditary. I still can't understand how she didn't get nominated for Best Actress for that. I just don't know. Number 5, Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl. Number 5, James McAvoy in Split. Number 3, Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler. Number 2, Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln. Number 1, Phoenix in The Master / Joker. Honorable mentions include Bale the Fighter, Hardy, Locke, and McConaughey, Dallas Buyers Club. What performances of the past decade have struck you, John, and whose do you think will be remembered the most? Because I think There Will Be Blood is over 10 years ago, right? Let me just double check that. I think that's over 10 years old now. So There Will Be Blood, yeah, it was 2007. So that's outside of the last decade. I mean, DiCaprio in The Revenant. DiCaprio in The Revenant. In The Revenant. That might have to be at the top of my list. Because so much of his performance as well is done without words. I mean, that to me, it's kind of like the same thing about Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood. Like the first part of that movie, no dialogue, and he acts the shit out of that movie, man. He just shows it. Just everything about him in the beginning of that movie is, I am the greatest actor that ever lived, everybody. And he just showed it. And when you can do it without dialogue and without words, it really puts an exclamation point on that. And a lot of DiCaprio in The Revenant, well, there is a lot of dialogue, and his dialogue is stellar, but it's, when you combine that with the fact that so much of the movie is him without dialogue and what he's able to do just physically to communicate his performance, I would I would probably have to. I mean, you listed some fabulous performances in there, but I think I would have to go DiCaprio in The Revenant. So that's the one I'm going to lean towards. Actually, excellent list, Mandalorian. Excellent list. All right, next up, Sam O'Neill writes, am I the only one that is pretty much pleased with 95% of the movies I see? Everything from all Adam Sandler movies to Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, including The Crystal Skull, Godzilla, and the list goes on. I'm simply entertained, dude. A lot of us envy you. That is fabulous, and I'm so glad that you have that experience. But yeah, to me, I'd say about 70% of the movies I watch, I at least enjoy. I'd say a good 70% of the movies I see, I at least enjoy. Maybe it should be a smaller percentage of that, but I'd say it's probably right around there. Man, listen, that is a gift. If you can just go in and just be entertained and have a good time, that is awesome. That is awesome. It's like, you know what I don't enjoy that much? Masseuse. I don't like going to massage, do masseuse for it. And my wife is like, oh, let's go to the spa and get a massage. And because my wife loves almost any kind of massage. Like we'll go to any, like the high end ones in Vegas, like this amazing, super expensive spa at like Caesar's Palace, and she'll get those, or she'll go, to this some other one and just love it. But me, I just don't enjoy them that much. Every once in a while I get one that's okay, but I maybe get like a massage, like a professional massage, like once every 3 years. And some I like, but a lot I don't. I just can't enjoy them on level. But my wife does. Movies, man, if you're in a position that you can just go in and watch and love them, that's awesome. That's awesome. Nothing wrong with you, Sam. Nothing wrong with you. That's just how they hit you, and that's an enviable thing. All right, Suthius writes, hi, congratulations, Mr. C. Pop champagne bottles. Thank you so much, Suthius. I appreciate it. It was a really fun night. Loki is my favorite, writes, so sad to say goodbye to my choice of greatest living actor to never win an Oscar. R.I.P. Spartacus. I mean, again, it's so weird to think of a world that Kirk Douglas is not in it. And again, like to me, it just started to feel like he was going to be here forever. And I mean that in a good way. So it's kind of odd, but again, it's weird because you don't feel like, it's not the sadness that you feel like when a Kobe Bryant passes away, because Kobe was just like, he was just in his 40s, man. I mean, he was young. He had so much, he was just about to start this chapter of his life. And he had a family and so much still to do and to see and to accomplish and to watch his children grow and all that kind of stuff. Whereas a Kirk Douglas, he was 103. He's seen it all. He did it all. And it's kind of more of a time for celebration, but sentiments well stated, Loki. Sentiments well stated. Pelican Mike writes, hey guys, love the show. Thank you so much, Pelican Mike. John, I finally found who you could look like. 7-foot Serbian basketball player for the Denver Nuggets, Nikolai Jokic. Aaron and Chris, do you concur? I'm not quite sure. I always either get Wayne Gretzky or Liam Neeson. I don't personally see it, but that's who I normally get. So I will check out Nicola at some point and see if there's any similarities there, Pelican Mike. All right, Alex Pitt writes, I just binged all of Spartacus in about a week and loved it. The last 3 episodes in particular were amazing. The person who played Sora in season 1 was really good. Obviously, that was Aaron. If only I knew who that person was. Just kidding, Aaron, you are the best. Spartacus is actually my top 3 favorite shows of all time. And I watched the first episode because Aaron's in it. And I'm like, I hated the first episode of Spartacus. And I hated the second episode of Spartacus. The first 2 episodes of Spartacus is some of the worst television I've ever seen. I'm not joking. It's some of the worst television I've ever seen. But because my friend Aaron was in it, I decided to keep watching. And I'm so glad that I did, because somewhere around episodes 3 or 4, it totally turned it around. And it went on to become one of my all-time favorite TV shows. It really did. So I'm glad you had a chance to watch it, Alex. And yes, Aaron is really, really good in that show. All right, Edward Wells writes, 1958, the Vikings. Kirk Douglas's final word as Einar Odin. I forgot about the Vikings. I should have put that one on my list as well. Dude, listen, the dude has such a history. of these great iconic films. I'm so glad you brought up that one. I'm actually kind of embarrassed I didn't bring the one up myself earlier, Edward. Thank you for mentioning that one. Suthius writes, I now think all of the Fast and Furious characters are secretly physicists. How else can you explain all of their impeccable timing and calculations? Because family. No, I mean, they're not just physicists. They're wizards. They're space wizards. Because not only do they push the limits of, human physics, Suthius, they then go 4 or 5 stages even further than the regular limits of human physics. Anyway, James Rell writes, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, it's pizza time. Not sure I get that. Dom's brother, I live my life half a mile. You live at a quarter mile at a time. I'm going to one-up you. I live at half a mile at a time. Captain Chicken Pants writes, well, I'm no longer an NHL virgin. That game was epic. Yeah, the Rangers won last night. That game was epic. Tonight, I'm losing my V plates in the NBA. Knicks versus Magic. Nice. Well-deserved on your award, John. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That is great, dude. You get to go to New York City, a Rangers hockey game, which is always a great atmosphere, and you get to go to a Knicks game the next night. That's a nice double feature for you, Captain Chicken Pants. I'm glad you had a good time. Taj and Cars writes, sends in a really large super chat. Thank you so much for that, Taj and Cards. I feel like I'm the only person who saw Dark Knight Rises and immediately thought that it was a callback to Nolan's Inception, which was his previous film. Like the top spinning, Alfred said that he would imagine that ending. I've never really thought of it in those terms, but it's not a bad connection. That's not a bad connection at all. I don't know that I would call it, per se, Taj, a callback, per se, but rather, look, as filmmakers are storytellers, and they will have, certain things that are in their heads and that they want to convey and say in their projects and in their movies. And that's definitely a big one for sure. And I think there is probably a carryover there a little bit. Obviously not a connection, not a literal narrative connection, but I think there probably is a thematic carryover there between those two. By the way, you bring up something really important, and I don't think this gets addressed enough. I think one of the reasons that Christopher Nolan was always able to stay so sharp on his Batman films, and I didn't love The Dark Knight Rises, but I like it. But I think one of the reasons he always stayed so sharp is because he always did a different movie. He did a Batman movie, and then he did a different movie. And then he did another Batman movie, and then he did a different movie. Like he kept his creative knife sharp. You know what I mean? And I think that's something a lot of people don't forget. But it's very interesting that you saw that thematic connection. I like that. All right. Last question of the day, guys, and then we've got to wrap it up here. We have a big shoot day today on my documentary. We got a lot going on today, so we have a lot we've got to do. So we're just gonna have to end it after this one here. But don't worry, all the other questions I got sent in, Matthew, Charles, all the way up, you're gonna get addressed, man. All right, Roma Arma writes, John, I've noticed how people say having a sympathetic villain makes a more interesting villain. But take characters like King Joffrey or Ramsay Bolton, who are not sympathetic at all. Villains like these are far more terrifying. That's not true, but it's also not untrue. Here's the thing. It is easy to make a mwahaha, I'm the bad guy, look at me twist my evil mustache. It's easier to do those things when you can give a character. I like to go back to the operative, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor in the Firefly spin-off movie Serenity, which is fabulous. Therein was a character, one of the most terrifying villains ever, because he saw himself, and in many ways carried himself as a good man. And he believed in something. And he saw what he was doing was the right thing. He saw himself as the hero, standing against the villainous heroes of our story, that he saw as villainous heroes of our story, that are bringing in ruin and chaos to the universe, right? When you have characters who are either sympathetic, which gives more depth to their character, or you have these characters that they see themselves as heroes, so you add more dimensions and layers to them. That always enriches the experience. It always enriches the experience. However, another good example of that is Thanos, right? Thanos, they spent a lot of time. Thanos is considered certainly maybe the greatest villain in the MCU. Some might still think it's Loki, but whatever. But they also spent a lot of time showing us the deeper layers of Thanos, that he saw himself as the hero. He thought what he was doing was necessary and therefore the right thing to do. And the Avengers were these bad people trying to stop him from doing what needed to be done. And that just gives you a richer experience with it. But that is not to say that that's the only way to approach it or the only way to handle it. Not at all. Because you're right, you can get characters like Joffrey or Ramsay or others that are just pure evil as evil, right? Look at one of the greatest cinematic villains of all time, right? Die Hard, right? Like, there's just a pure villainous character and is one of the greatest villains in the history of cinema. So it's not a one size fits all. It's not pure evil characters are always the better ones. No, that's not true. Oh, the sympathetic multidimensional characters are always the best ones. No, that's not necessarily true. I think it all depends on the character you're creating. It depends on the story you're telling it in. You can have a Joffrey or a Hans, you can have a whatever, or you can have a Thanos or an Operative or a Doc Ock from not the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but from Spider-Man 2. You can get those as well. And it all depends on what is the best fit for that story and that hero. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. Okay, guys, listen. From Matthew Phillips, Charles, Jason Ashcroft, Evelyn, more Jason Ashcroft, all the way up. Do not worry. Your questions are getting answered either in a companion video later today, although we have a lot of shooting to do today, but either in a companion video later today or tomorrow we'll start off the show by getting caught up on your leftover questions. But your questions, you sent them in, you supported the channel. They're going to get answered properly in a video. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Aaron Cummings, the wonderful Chris Carr, to all of you guys for being here. And a special thank you to all of you who sent in the questions. Not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here on the John Campea channel, myself, Rob, Aaron, Chris, fact checker Jonathan, Ray, Juliet, all of us here, thank you very, very much for your support and helping us do what we do here. Okay, guys, don't forget, we'll be back again tomorrow for the next installment of the John Campea Show. Make sure you guys come by and join us. By the way, since you're here, why don't you take a second, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and help out the channel by clicking the thumbs up on this video if you like these types of topics and discussions. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here and making this a part of your day. My name is John Campea, and until next time, cheers. Bye-bye.